Well, it pains me to say this. At such a time of crisis with the California wildfires, American citizens are looking to their governor and president for some reassurance, only to be sorely disappointed in the response. This time, it seems like a series of PR gaffes by both Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden are making it so much worse for the administration. And it started when Gavin started off this phone call with the president by complaining about the hurricane winds of misinformation.
The magnitude of this is pretty profound, and we've searched all the assets. In final words, I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And in closing, hats off to those neighbors that are stepping up.
Vice President Harris and I are about to receive a brief from Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, but this time yesterday, these fires are mostly spreading out of control.
Am I hearing this correctly? With the city on fire right now, people losing lives, Gavin is more interested in the so-called misinformation hurting his precious reputation. Also, what supposed misinformation is even referring to, since we know the failures of forest cleaning, water reservoirs, and his fish-first policy are well documented as fact. By the way, we only speak the blunt truth that no one else wants to say, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to become a part of our conversation. Now, what's making it look a lot worse is the unsettling attitude that people are noting from Gavin, especially when he couldn't answer a basic question from Anderson Cooper without diverting it to local folks.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter in this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
And surprisingly now, even a left-wing safe haven like Hollywood is coming out to lambast the failures of the Gavin administration in California. Actress Patricia Heaton wrote, quote, "The primary role of government is to secure infrastructure, make sure disaster preparedness is up to date, and protect citizens from both harm criminally and otherwise. Newsom and co. have done the exact opposite," infuriating Sarah Forrester said. "We pay the highest taxes in California, our fire hydrants were empty, our vegetation was overgrown, brush not cleared, reservoirs emptied by our governor because tribal leaders want to save fish. Our fire department budget was cut by our mayor, but thank God drug addicts are getting their drug kits. Mayor of LA and Gavin Newsom resign. Your far-left policies have ruined our state and also our party." End quote. James Woods also demanded change at the top in California, saying, quote, "It took mere hours for the ineptitude of Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass to render the Pacific Palisades a scorched wasteland. To rebuild will be a gargantuan task. The first necessary step must be to recall those 2 worthless political acts. And even though it may appear slightly premature to someone that doesn't understand where this frustrations come from, here's a snapshot of the PR campaign that Gavin Newsom's trying to make it, when he literally pretended to be on the phone with the president so he wouldn't have to answer the tough questions from a resident, but was lying, allegedly.
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the
Why
call.
is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry, especially for your daughter. I have 4 kids losing the school.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be. Of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
to
everything
fill the hydrants. I would fill them up personally. You know that.
I literally have.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I would. I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see the Do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to make the call to address everything I can right now, including making sure people
I'd
are
like
safe.
to make sure you do. Can I have an opportunity to at least tell people you're doing what you're saying you're doing? Could somebody have a contact? Can I have your contact information?
Right there.
Maybe that's why Kevin O'Leary just this past week declared that Gavin Newsom is the Justin Trudeau of California. And you know what? With the resounding calls for a resignation, we may see a similar fate for him given the PR disaster that these wildfires have been for the state administration. Not just that, I think it's fair to say that this is a similar theme we're seeing even up top. That's because Joe Biden's latest statement is making a lot of people very angry. And why is that? Well, he just announced that affectees of the California wildfires would be getting a measly $770 in assistance, totaling around $5 million.
And I want to be clear, we're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out. And I encourage everyone who has been impacted to get assistance.
$5 million. That's peanuts when you think about the scale of the loss that people have suffered and how reckless the administration has been with its foreign aid programs that include a massive $500 million to Ukraine since just the start of this year, on top of $175 billion already given. And by the way, here I am in South Carolina where Joe Biden didn't even want to help us. It was a similarly meager $700 thing that I didn't receive, and many victims of Hurricane Helene a few months ago didn't either, which just adds to the basket of reasons why Americans just don't think their government even puts them first anymore. Now, Donald Trump, on his part, at least knows the right message to send out, even if we are yet to see his actions in the next presidency. But even if you look back at his first administration, it's incredible to realize that he'd been trying to get California's attention to things like unclean forest and lack of water infrastructure that could make a wildfire 10 times worse than it had to be. Here's a clip of Trump with Gavin Newsom almost 8 years ago saying the same thing.
I'm committed to make sure that we get all of this cleaned out and protected. You got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out. It's going to work out well.
Trump even mentioned it recently on Rogan, but of course there were no lessons learned, and we see it in how much these two individuals have diverged in their approval and appeal among the public. That's a sign that people aren't as easily swayed by words and have become a lot smarter in the last decade than these career politicians give them credit for. But let me know in the comments if you agree, because this is a time that the American people are probably going to remember for a long time moving forward.